Third Academy's Community Management 101 class. Phew, halfway there. It's week three, and this is our third guest speaker section. Remember that today we are going to do a contest, right, on what you're wearing today. So make sure that you're on your best attires, come well dressed, because we're going to take a photo at the end of the section. So fix your style. You can just click um on the right side of your screen. Just click on the last button you see there, and you see customize avatar. Just dress up, feel free to mix and match colors as much as you like. Today we're talking about a very interesting topic: community engagement. I think this is one challenge that I've heard a lot of community managers talk about, and that's one trouble they have: how to engage my community, how to get them to contribute, how to get people talking, right? And today we have AMA. I've had the opportunity to be on the space with AMA, and I can tell you she's very amazing. So she's also the founder of Angry Mods, and she's doing a very very good thing in the space. So I'm excited, to learn from her today and just share knowledge and interact and have the best time within this immersive environment today. So feel free to drop your questions on the chat. Um, if you have any questions, or when it's time for question, you can always unmute your mic and go ahead and ask your question. So just to kickstart into the space, I've met AMA and I know how awesome she is, but I want everyone else to meet AMA. So AMA, would want you to tell us about yourself and really how you got into the space, and let's meet you.
Yeah, thanks, Rita. I'm so excited to be here talking about community engagement, which is one of my favorite things to talk about. I am an ex-agency executive and creative. So I spent the majority of my career working in New York City at different agencies, including VaynerMedia. And when I joined VaynerMedia, it was my first time like outside of being a creative and overseeing basically all of the community and content, which at the time there were about 72 brands, and each of those brands had multiple platforms. So it was really like social media boot camp, and like the first time that I was fully immersed in my role um, to be building out communities. So, I started by just being in the brand space. And after leaving the agency world, Gary had convinced me to go and start my own business. So I did that for a little while. And when I came back to consulting, I fell into Web3 mostly because I had been in metaverse content creation for a really long time, and I love the power of community and social. And when I started interacting in Web3, I started to have to hire because my clients were building different activations like NFT collections and things like that. I feel like the best education was participation. So I jumped right into basically, getting into some communities myself and understanding how everything worked. And one of the things that I realized was hiring in the space was broken. And the way that community managers and moderators were brought into team environments was very broken. And that's how Angry Mods kind of came about because, I was just thinking about how they interact in the space, and a lot of them don't get paid well. So, when I was interviewing people, I would have, someone who wanted $1 an hour and someone who wanted $100 an hour. So, that was kind of my first reason for, looking at how do we do hiring in the space? How do we make sure people are trained? So in Angry Mods, one of the things we do when you join is I get basically, information from each person in terms of where they are, in the world, what kind of projects are they working on, what are they charging, so that all the members of our community see, across the world, what are people charging, and it's not always, a good thing either. Like some of the regions are an average of like $4 an hour, in Nigeria, for example. So making sure people understand, how to make sure they get paid for their work. And I am a fractional marketing director in Web 2 and Web 3. So, I often have opportunities that come my way. So Angry Mods also, is not only a place for people to understand how to get paid their worth, but also, how to market yourself in this space, how to be, a great community leader and moderator in the space. So it's a small community of, amazing people who are all like working together to make Web3 a better place.
That's actually very interesting. And it would only take, for what you do in the space, I think it won't take someone who is, passionate about helping others and just passionate about what they do to be able to do that. And I think that you do a lot already for the space. I know you have a community of moderators and managers, and today's topic is very similar to one of the issues that they face, that we face. So we want to hear, like, what is community engagement, like what is community engagement, and in Web3, why is it important?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, blockchain gives community members, and in Web 2, they would be consumers, right? So, like your customers, people that are interested in your product. It gives them a seat at the table. It's it's a very different relationship, So in, Web 1, there wasn't really there was the project and the company, and then there were consumers. In Web 2, community started to develop, and you were able to have conversations with the brands that you were interacting with, and it was the first time really that you had this access. But now in Web 3, it's more important to really treat your followers, your community members, your customers as part of your brand itself. It's an opportunity to really get involved. So, like, if, and I think it's important too to kind of talk about what is a community actually. And a community is really like anyone who is a follower of your brands or your project. So like somebody who subscribes to a newsletter technically is part of your community, right? Like I'm a member of a community if I'm staying up to date on what you're doing in any, different format. So whether I'm in a Discord or whether I follow you on Twitter, I'm a community member. But it's a different relationship. And I think that's something that a lot of Web2 brands haven't really wrapped themselves around. Like I still see people treating their community members as if they're an outsider. And I think, uh, I'm assuming that we'll probably get into that a lot more in this conversation. There's a lot of different ways to make your consumers feel like they are part of your community.
Very interesting. Sorry for the sorry for the time it took me to speak up. I had my mic on mute so that we won't get feedback. But I think that's actually very interesting. So for anyone listening, if you have any question, if you're a community manager or you want to become a community manager, right? And you have any question about engagement, for the communities that are highly engaged versus the communities that, it's really like no one is talking. If you want to, like, find out the difference and what they do differently to get engagement up, and you have questions about that, like I said earlier, feel free to put them on the chat and we'll deal with all of them today. I think we yeah, so I think we have more persons joining in, so I'm glad the section is recorded so they can always, go back and re-listen to the section. All right. So for my next question that I have is, in your opinion, what do you think is the best way, or what strategies do you think is one of the effective ways to get engagement up in a community? Because for a brand to be able to build loyalty, right, you need people to communicate, you need them to be involved, and how they get involved is by their engagement, right? And for someone like you who believes that participation is the best education, I think I heard that the first time I heard that word was from you, and I've really taken time to like really think about it, how participation can be the best education. And just looking back at my journey, the communities that have participated in, and have just learned so much from these communities, right? Because as community managers, there's something about being a member of a community and see what they do there effectively, and then you are learning from that as well. So there are a lot of things that you actually learn from, and also from your profile, being a part of so many communities. So in your opinion, what do you think are some of the best strategies to get engagement up in a community?
So I think community managers and moderators, you have to be creative and work within the confines of the tools and the teams that you're part of, right? Because we're all working with the same set of tools right now: Discord, Telegram, Twitter, newsletters, because that's where the people are right now. So everything that we do has to be through the channels that we're working with. And what I love about like what Third Academy is doing here is you're using other channels to broaden the engagement and experience. Like this is a much more personal experience sitting here with everybody than it would be, sitting maybe in a Twitter space where, it's just audio. We have to look at the tools that we have and figure out what are the ways that I can utilize these tools to deeper my relationship with the community, right? So I think everybody who is in the community management space knows that transparency is key, like making sure that you're talking to your community and that there aren't awkward silences. Like awkward silences in the Web3 space are like, you know, instant death in the world of community. Um, but you also need support from the team and the project founders who need to be engaged and present if they think that a community manager is going to walk, into the project and all of a sudden, change the dynamic of everything. Like that's that you need to be empowered with more than just the ability to come in and speak with, the audience. They need to be behind the scenes and part of the team so that they can be present for the community. So, making sure that you're present every day, answering questions when they come up in chat, and making sure that your community members are heard. Never being defensive. Like I've been in communities where the community managers will kind of like take an offensive position when somebody asks a question, maybe the wrong way, or, they seem like they don't really, understand things or haven't taken the time to like read through all your project white papers and stuff. I think, the community leaders have a duty to kind of approach everybody with empathy, making sure that they feel heard, making sure that you're giving the community announcements and updates like once a week. And even more than that, like finding things that are sticky and give the community a reason to come back every day. The community managers and the moderators, they can't just come into Discord every day and just say GM, and expect everybody to be an engaged member of the community, especially right now, when we're in the bear market. So you have to be very creative about the ways that you use these tools, the ways that you give the community value, and we'll probably talk more about like what is value to your community, and how do you provide value. But the tools that we have at the moment are not the best tools, so we have to find ways within Discord to make sure people are coming back every day. Like, is there some sort of incentive or access, and what are the things that are going to make sure people come back. So, like in Angry Mods, for example, one of the things that we do is make sure we have like a steady jobs channel. Like, I use my own server to like check on job openings and like what's available, and giving them resources. So depending on where you are like in your professional journey, there's something there to help you, when you're trying to figure something out. So it's all about like really getting creative with these tools that we're kind of stuck with at the moment.
I think you've made some very valuable points, and one thing that stuck out to me, it was the trust factor, right? So you need
Yeah.
building trust as a community manager is actually very important, because that's one of the ways that you can get people really involved in your community and to engage and to show up. And there are lots of ways to build trust. It's not just about the community manager, right? It's about the team, right? So the community manager sometimes cannot do this alone. You also need the team, right? So for the community, providing updates to the community, and having AMAs, and just getting them up to speed with what's happening with the project development, and just taking them along, as your project does not need to be perfect. So as you progress, take your community along with all the hiccups on the way, with all the challenges, with all the success, and just take the community along with you. And then you also mentioned creativity, which I think is also very important. I mean, as a community manager, I mean, creativity is it's very important, right? Because I mean, you're dealing with people, right? And you need to
Yep.
think of like creative ways to really get them motivated and really get them to show up and take ownership, right? So when people feel like they are invested in the community, they are invested in the project, there is already that incentive to show up in the community, right? So talking about incentives, right? So I would want to hear your opinion about incentives, right? So incentive structures, right? So how would you talk about it, right, in motivating community members to actively participate? That is beyond the financial rewards that you can offer to community members. What other incentive do you think as a community manager you can creatively use to engage your community? But before we get into that, I feel like I've been sitting for quite a while, and I want to stretch my legs. So I would love us to move to the back of the space. We have a very beautiful section at the back of the space. So I want us to go there and finish up with it. So if you want to get up from your seat and follow up with these incentives, let's move to the back. To get up from your where you're sitting, just double click anywhere and you'll be up, right? Yeah, I see. Yes, yes, yes. Let's go.
All right, lead the way, Rita. We're following you.
Of course. Funny story. Who's gonna bring me up? I can't get up.
You can get up.
Oh my god. Yes, I'm up. All right, let's go.
Which way are we going? Out to the
Sorry, I got a little stuck on furniture. I'm trying to get. We going to the waterfall? Yay!
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, I love the sight.
Oh, I found a seat.
Ooh, it's so pretty.
Hey, Mayank, are you coming? Do you have troubles getting up?
Cool. Oh wait, I'm gonna get out of this front and center seat. That's a good interview seat.
Oh, here.
Yeah, front and center. That's for you. I'm gonna
Okay.
come.
It is really pretty back here. I love it. Okay, so Rita's question was about incentive structures.
Incentives, right.
This is one of my favorite questions ever because most people, when they're thinking about incentives, immediately go to, oh, it has to be a reward like that's tangible, like a financial reward, an NFT, a token, something of that nature. But I'm going to go a little deeper than that. So there's a framework that I've used in the past for both my Web 2 and my Web 3 clients by a man called Gabe Zickerman, and it's called the SAPS framework. And basically, what SAPS stands for is status, access, power, and stuff. And if you go deeper into these four categories, it gives you a framework to reward your community with things that are beyond just stuff, which is, the stuff that actually costs money. So status is recognizing your consumers for things that they do, so you can give them status like um, a special Discord role or, giving them, something like a special NFT or, something that gives them a status symbol. That's something that you can do on social. It's something you can do in Discord. You can call people out in your newsletter. And then there's access. And access is a way to give your users some kind of exclusivity, like entrance to an event or, a special channel, that they're able to be part of. Um, and then power, giving your community members something that either like um, gives them a special role that lets them do something that others can't. Um, or it could be, a special group or product, that they're part of. But if you empower them, that doesn't always have to be like a financial product. So some of the ways I've seen this, I mean, most of the projects in the space aren't necessarily using this framework to come up with the things that they're doing, but I can kind of give you examples of communities that are using different aspects of this framework. So, for example, Women in Weapons, which is one of the communities that I'm part of, every week they name a top 5 women in weapons protectors, and they're given a special role. So that there you go with the status. Um, there's a raffle at the end of the quarter for a chance to win a season 1 Women in Weapons. So that goes back to stuff. And then the artist, Sarah Bowman, also does portraits of community members and highlights them with a spotlight on Twitter. So, like, she's doing some custom art. She's putting them on Twitter, which is, a thing that they do for status. So, she hasn't had a new collection come out for, a little while, but her community is very active and very vibrant because of the ways that she engages them. Um, the Smurfs Project regularly do meetings with their community to discuss like critical aspects of the project. So they did one yesterday that was held in Discord where they're basically like out loud and transparently talking to the community about what they're planning to do, with the rest of the Smurfs that were minted, for example. And they put out like, here are some of the things that we're talking about and the ideas, and letting the community come back with their own ideas. That's giving the community power, right? There are lots of things that I'm seeing in the space that are just new and different. Starbucks, for example, they have a channel called The Cafe where you can gift other people Starbucks items, which basically gives them something called beans. That's like the currency that it's just XP points. But when you collect these beans, you're entered into a sweepstakes at the end of the month, for Starbucks reward points. So that goes back to the stuff. But I think what's really unique about the cafe thing that they're doing is they're encouraging interaction between the different community members. So, like, I can gift Rita, a baked good or, a drink. And it's also allowing the community to like get familiar with the products that way. So it's absolutely brilliant. But I'll try to find a link to this framework by Gabe Zickerman, because I think for me, when I came across it, it gave me a framework to really look at how can I reward my community members, whether it's in Angry Mods or whether it's in one of my client communities, to really give them an experience and give them a reason, to engage. If you make it fun, if you make it rewarding, they're going to stick around.
Well, community managers, I hope that you're taking notes. I mean, that's actually very creative. Status and access. Um, yeah. So I have that down on. I have that down because I've seen. I think usually this kind of incentives. They are also incentives. This kind of incentives actually you know support your long-term goals, and they are more sustainable compared to financial rewards all the time and just throwing money out, right? Because I've seen a lot of communities that just start up with these financial rewards, and people are very active and the hype is there, and after a while they run out of funds to do this and everybody's gone. Why? Because they came for that. So that's the reason why they are there. And if you're no longer able to offer that, I mean, they don't see any reason. But with having a mix of the incentives, and especially with the intrinsic incentives that is internal and just motivate people, and they see what it can do for them and how they can work together. That's actually the example you gave is actually very, very nice. And personally, I'm going to come back to this section and re-listen to it, because I think you have shared very, very good nuggets. So as I would, as a community builder yourself, as someone who is in marketing, what advice would you give to someone who is building out a community from scratch? How to onboard members, how to onboard their first members, and get started with their community building efforts. What would be your opinion on that, and what have you seen that has worked in the past and still very effective now?
It's such an important question because really every project, no matter who you are and what you're doing, have to start from scratch in some way or another. One of the first things that I do is look for ways that I can take shortcuts. Now, let me explain a little bit. Like, shortcuts aren't always good, But when it comes to building a community from scratch, it's really, really difficult. If especially if you're starting something that doesn't have awareness in the community, nobody knows who you are. It's going to be very hard to get new people to come into the community. And I think, part of the Web3 um, landscape that's become very hazardous is this hype cycle, right? And I think James talked about this when he was here, but these hype cycles are very dangerous to the ecosystem because projects feel like if they don't have this extreme hype behind them, it's going to be impossible for them to build a community. So, what I suggest is finding ways that you can be part of existing communities where there are like minded individuals and people that are going to care about your project and engage with them there first. So that's why, collab management is so important in the space because they're the ones that are engaging with other projects that are already existing to have them help get the word out about your community. So that's part one, right? And that would be part of like building awareness of your community, who you are, what you do. Um, but that's just the very tip of the iceberg. Like once you get someone into a Discord or you get them to follow you on Twitter, you have to keep them there, right? So the hard part is making sure you can get in front of people who are going to care about what you do. So getting, a collab manager, getting into Twitter spaces, doing things like this. I'm here and talking to all of you about community management. Somebody here may say, oh, what AMA is doing with Angry Mods is going to help me with my career. So I'm going to join her Discord because she's already put all this work into, brand building for community managers or, different resources and things like that. Making sure that you're being consistent and active. Once you get people in there, consistency is key. Making sure that you're engaging is key. Making sure that you're transparent about who you are, what you do. Don't overpromise, but build out in the open. Like that open dialogue is so important to making sure that people feel secure, comfortable, welcome. Those are all important. Giving them that seat at the table and making sure that they feel like they are empowered, um, welcome, giving them resources and tools that, are helpful in whatever context, your project is in. So going back to that like incentive, model that we talked about, what are some of the things that you can then bring to the community that, make them stick around, and want to be there. And Third Academy, for example, I was introduced to Third Academy through one of my other communities that, offered the space in the metaverse course. And look at me, I'm still here. I'm still engaging way after, that course is long, long finished, but I get value out of, participating in the community and meeting more people who are, in similar position, or even people that I could potentially help in their own career journeys.
Get in front of people who care. I mean, that's talk. That's talk. That's all because I mean it's way easier that way, right? It's way easier if you're talking to people who just like if our audience in this case were devs in the space, this topic that we are currently talking about would it doesn't it wouldn't be of so much interest to them compared to someone who is involved in community, who is involved in engagement, who is a community manager or a community moderator. And I think that's very important. And for every kind of project, there are always people who care, right? So if you're starting a community from scratch, your job is to identify who you think these persons will be, I mean, and get in front of them, build in public, build in the open, build with them. And also consistency, right? Because if I were to talk about this consistency, I think as community managers, it's actually very important for us because I mean, we experiment a lot and try to come up with ways to engage our community, and not everything that we try will work, or rather, not everything that we have tried works. And just having that, sometimes you might host an event and you have one person, two person showing up, right? Just having that consistent belief, I would say, to keep going and keep finding ways to provide value to your community. I mean, because if people see value, when I define value, I define value as something that is worth, in exchange of your time. So if I say this thing is would be valuable to you, I'm saying it's worth your time, it's worth in exchange of your time. So please listen to what I'm saying, or please, take part in this action, or please do this with me, or all of that. And that's actually very important, just being consistent and keep going, right? Because it gets better. And also, you also mentioned empowering people, and I love that a lot. I mean, the one of the goals that I see for every community is just that ability to take people from zero to one, right? People join communities for benefits, and most times they stay because of the relationships that they build there, right? Because of the relationship that they build there. And empowering people is one of the ways that you can actually do this. And just giving them ownership, just giving them that sense of responsibility to feel like, oh, I'm actually a part of this community. When I give feedback, it actually taking the feedback is taken, and work towards the best action for the community and all of that. And I think that's actually very, very amazing. So one more question that I have for you. I mean, if you're listening to us and you have any question, you're listening on YouTube or you're listening on Twitter, if you have any question, you can drop it on the chat, and I promise you we'll have access to that and ask a question. And AMA would answer you, because we're almost coming to the end of our section. Now, we have been talking about engagement, how to build your community, right? So this final question that I have is about metrics. So what, in your opinion, what metrics do you think that projects should focus on, qualitative versus quantitative? Like, what metrics would they use to qualify? Oh, saying this metric, they'll say my community is successful or not successful, right? So even though no matter where you are, there's always room to do better, right? So what key performance index, or what metrics should Web3 project use to assess the success of their community engagement and management efforts? And how can this data be leveraged for improvement?
It's such a tough question because I think we don't have the right KPIs for Web3 yet at a business level. So, what's broken right now in the ecosystem is that a lot of these NFT projects just haven't set themselves up for success, to, make sure that they have revenue coming in, like, the issue with artist royalties and, secondary sales. You can't rely on secondary sales any longer as your business model. So I think, some of these KPIs are more a responsibility of the founders. So I know, as community leads and community managers, that's a challenge, right? Because it's not something that you can impact at that level. But I would say for, the community itself, the KPIs are more about engagement. How many active users do you have coming back, like once a week? How many members are there in the community, even though, it's harder to track. And, for someone like me with Angry Mods, we don't have 500 users in the Discord, so I don't get access to all of the data. But what I end up doing for our community is doing regular surveys, because if you're getting feedback from the community that allows you to make decisions, so like our hiring survey, for example, to get into our Discord, we ask you, how long have you been working as a moderator or community manager? Are you volunteering? Have you ever volunteered in the past? Have you been rugged, and not paid for your work? That's all data that I'm taking in so that I can give it back to the community, and provide them with insight. So, I think that the KPIs and measures of success right now are extremely, extremely flawed. I would say, if you have a couple of metrics that you're using, in your own day-to-day work, you can use all the standard things, how many members there are, how many are actively participating, but you can go a little deeper if you have access to the data and look at where the users are located across the world. So, for example, some of the bigger communities out there actually have multiple communities within their Discord for global communities. So, like, for example, the Chinese community is very big in Smurfs. So, they have a channel for Chinese speaking community members. So, in some cases, if you have the ability to scale up and hire community managers that, can speak multiple languages, that's helpful. It allows you to give back to the community and make sure that those community members, feel heard. But, there's no magic pill for KPIs, and there's certainly no, like, silver bullet for this is the magic number, that you need to hit. This is the number of people that you need to have in your, in your Discord, for example. Um, there are ways that you can kind of look at those KPIs to make decisions, though. So, for example, if your Discord has, a few thousand users, is that enough for you to, invest money into, like, launching, a collection or something like that? It's all relative, really. So, I apologize for not having a simple answer to that question, but there really isn't one. I think, we all have to kind of look at the cards that we have in front of us and make sure you're playing the right cards at the right time.
Agreed. I agree. And I think the most important thing is I agree that it's relative, and the most important thing really varies from communities to community. And you need to figure out what metrics are really important to you. One advice that I give to community managers who have had the privilege of speaking with is that make sure that the metrics that you're chasing or the metrics that you're working towards to achieve, make sure it's aligned with, because there's always a higher authority, there's always stakeholders, other stakeholders, right, in the community. So make sure, and the founders and the CEOs and the other team. So make sure that the metrics are aligned. Make sure you're working towards the same goals, because you can, if it's not aligned, you can end up working towards something else that isn't priority at that time, and that wouldn't really move the needle for the team as much as they want. So you want to make sure that you ask them what is priority at this point in time, what do you want me to focus on, as well as the other metrics that you can also keep an eye on to help you um measure your community engagement efforts and your community management efforts. And yeah, so I think those are actually those are very good points, and I've had a very nice time with you on the space today. So if anyone, we're almost at the end of the space, and if anyone has any questions, now is the time. Right now is the time to ask your questions. We've talked about so much, and you can always go back to listen to it at any time, at any point in your journey. When you feel confused, or you just need to know how to keep up. There are some very valuable nuggets here that you can get out of the space for your journey as a community manager. All right, so we've come to the end of the space. Anyway, I don't know if you have any final words that you want to say before we round up the space for today.
I'm very appreciative, Rita, of your time and all of the amazing content and support that Third Academy gives to their users. So thank you so much for that. And it's always so much fun chatting with you, Rita, and the community. Um, I'm AMA in the Third Academy Discord. So if you just at me at AMA, feel free to follow up with me afterwards if you have any questions. If anyone is interested in joining the Angry Mods community, feel free to hit me up or, reach out to me on Twitter. I recently brought a partner on, so I have a co-founder now, Angry Mods. Her name is Millie. She is absolutely amazing. So if you come into the community, she's someone who has been a moderator in the space for a really long time and is building out some of the most amazing resource libraries in our Discord that I use on the regular. So I hope everybody comes and takes advantage of those. I recently did a course within Angry Mods, the mastery program, where I did sessions on personal branding, how to redo your resume, and we built out resume templates, we built out product templates, so you can download them from Canva. We really want to make sure that we're giving people the tools that they need to be successful in their roles in this space. So I really hope that you'll take advantage of them. I really appreciate all the projects in the space that are going out of their way, and they're not making money off of this. I don't know how you guys are making money off of this, but you're giving back to the community and contributing to Web3. And we need more people in the space who are doing that. So thank you all for that. I think we lost Rita. Do we do a dance now or do we do a group photo? I think we lost Rita. Let's see.
Honey, yeah.
I did not know that. Oh, how neat. Very neat. This is very cool.
Cool. Yeah, it was really
Thank you
good.
so much. Thanks so much for having me. So how do you unfly now that I'm flying?
I just
Hmm.
flew. Wow, that was nice.
Yeah, I got bounced right at the end too. Um,
I'm not sure it won't let me stop flying. I'm now a flyer. Oh, there you go. It's a double space and it'll unfly
I
you.
just crashed. I just flew into a wall. Hang on.
I think we should take a selfie.
Yeah, where do you
Uh,
want to
yeah.
do it? We'll
Right
line everybody up.
flying all over the place.
In front of the sign.
Okay, I got myself down.
All right, let's go. Absolutely.
Emery, you spoke my language. I'm a former agency person.
Oh, yeah, yeah.